leadership and management are often used interchangeably, but they're not necessarily the same. They're two different things. Hi, welcome back to the Revolving Change podcast, where we talk about professional development skills that will create positive change to your career and business. As usual, I'm one of your regular hosts. My name is Joanna, a junior coach here at Revolving Change. And here with me today is our resident expert
Fun.
with 30 years of experience under his belt and founder, Mr. Jorge Lobo. Hi, Jorge.
Hi. I wish it were 30 years. You're very kind. It's more than that, but that's okay.
I
I
said
need to
30 years of
reveal how
experience.
old I am. Yeah.
Well, they don't know from where that's coming from. So, Today's topic is a repeated common misconception that we've been seeing a lot. And I say a lot is very prevalent amongst people who are part of the Revolving Change community. And it is that leadership and management are often used interchangeably, but they're not necessarily the same. They're two different things.
So leadership and management are, while they have, like I said, common elements and overlap, they're vastly different in many ways, which are very critical. A leader will focus on the vision, on motivating, rallying the company and the organization and all the other stakeholders, customers, suppliers, shareholders, to the vision of where the company is going and giving direction in terms of the path the company should follow to get there. Management is going to execute on that vision. Sure, they're going to share the vision also, but their main task is to implement, to manage the resources to execute that vision. Their key focus is day to day operations. Their key focus is motivating for the day, for the week, for the month, following the results. And this is old concept, to control the whole, you need to control the parts. Comes out from old industrial engineering decades ago. Still true today. The manager will control the parts to make the whole move in the direction leadership, top management wants it to move. But it's interesting because sometimes today you hear people say, well, the new schools of leadership, the new schools of management, and there has been different schools and different directions of thought and different techniques. But when you look at history, and I'm a very short, crispy excursion into the Roman Empire, to more than 2,000 years ago, you had the emperor being the leader, selling the dream of the empire growing, selling the vision of all the spoils of war and conquest coming back to those that invested and financed the war, making promises to those that would go into war or liberating prisoners to go to war and come back and becoming part of society. So those days, there was a clear differentiation already between the leader and the managers, which were the ones running the battle, going to battle, the generals that were managing the troops, managing the resources. Logistics were very important. When you see what the Roman Empire created, and I'm not taking a political stand here in any way, but some of those prowess and those constructions are still today in being used in their glory, so to speak. You take some of the bridges which are 2,000 years old, and you have huge trucks driving over them. It's just phenomenal what they did, and some of the technology they developed at the time was just phenomenal. So the point is, leadership and management are not new concepts; they're old, but they have been blended, they have been mixed up, they have been brought into the same plate and not separated enough. Why? Because we are having information overflow. We're being bombarded with articles all the time. Many of them excellent, others are not so excellent. And we are just putting so much pressure in. It's like learning with a water hose, it's a fire hose. It is so much information, you cannot necessarily properly digest it, separate it, and focus. This is leadership, this is management. There's a lot of blending. That is creating confusion, it's creating frustration, and is not helping often managers and leaders and the company to make the progress they need to make. we still have this vision when the leadership is telling all stakeholders, the employees, about job security, about progression, about new technology, telling the customers about the new products we're going to develop and how great life is going to be for them when we deliver on the new technology and new products we're coming up with. Our suppliers that we're going to give them a lot more business. All the people that are involved, all the stakeholders are benefiting from us articulating the vision of our dream, of our aspirations, of our intentions. At the same time, we start pointing at what are the steps we're going to be taking. Now we're talking about management. The steps we're going to be taking, and now we are transitioning from leadership to management. The steps we will take, the actions we're taking, the investments we're making, and we're hiring more people, and we're investing in people development and training them, and we're going to increase the bonuses for our salespeople. Whatever is management is deciding. Then we get to the execution of this all, which is when management needs to execute. And here's one of the things that we have discussed in other podcasts, and now we have some interesting blog content on the topic, where I'm referring to the article of Kevin O'Leary, that execution skills are so rare to find, because a good execution skill takes both. You need leadership skills and you need a lot of managerial skills. And here's where we come in, where developing all these managerial skills is also what's going to prepare a manager to eventually become a leader. Because a leader needs to also understand the constraints management goes under. So, one little point on management constraints: managers are compelled to understand and translate the leadership message and make it understandable for the peers and the subordinates. They need to make sure that the actions they take when they manage, and that's where we come in also with dynamic profiling, that all these actions are pointing all the resources, all the noses, everybody in the right direction for the accomplishment of that vision. And not that we end up rowing, there's this allegory, this joke about two people in the same boat back to back rowing. So they're rowing forward, both of the boat doesn't move because people are not coordinating their effort. That is a very standard problem we find with clients. The part of the organization may not be completely tuned in and starts taking a different path. And depending which part of the organization that is, that can have pretty damning nefast impact on the progress of the company and the business, but also in the achievement of the vision the leaders have outlined.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that you actually helped define what that looked like in the past and how it looks like now, because the reason we keep coming back to defining what leadership and management is, because a lot of the time the people that are part of our program, having this clear definition, understanding the differences between both and how they interact with each other, and how each and how the level of leadership and the level of management you implement at a certain time depends on your position or how high you are up in the company, is because before you're able to actually start executing as a manager or start taking charge as a leader, you need to understand these differences. And there's something that we defined in one of our programs wherein we introduce to them the different leadership and management styles, because even understanding those things will create will already have a positive impact towards how you lead and how you manage. So if you could please share with
Yeah,
us what those
definitely.
are, Jorge.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, when I go back to when we started coaching, I'm talking about the 80s. We talked about management styles, but we never talked about leadership styles. Leadership styles were not on the radar. Leadership was intuitive, was taken for granted. You're a good manager, so you become the boss and you're now the leader. Although historically we have references to what leadership is, in management it was not really on the main center of the radar. It was not a big bleep on the radar. Today it has changed, because over the years we went on from TPM to 2QM, TQM to Kaizen, and Kaizen, when you look at what In Search of Excellence, what they wrote, and you look at Carlson's book and the Moments of Truth, the focus shifted to people. and shifted to what people do with technology and with systems, and not as much in systems. I mean, I'd like to show you, I don't have it right here, but I'll show you the books that we were referencing from and learning from in my early days. They're huge, and there's a lot of information, but there is mainly and mostly technical information and not people. So it's what to do and how to do it technically, but not how to do it through and with people. And that's where leadership comes in. When you have leadership styles and management styles, which to a large extent overlap, because of course the leadership styles come from management styles. So management, let's talk about management first, which is hands-on, is running a business. So you have a very common one, which is autocratic, right? You decide, you tell them what to do, you turn around and they better do it because there's going to be consequences if you don't, right? But then you have authoritative, forgive my English spelling, authoritative leadership style, which there is a great deal of overlap, but it's softer. So leadership styles are softer in a way that you can mold them more and appeal more to the feeling and to the inspiration of people and leading people, where our management styles are focused on more on execution, is running. The manager needs to run the day-to-day operations. So sometimes you have coercive and you have authoritative, but then you have apologetic would be like, well, I know this is bad and you don't like doing this, but the boss said so and we need to do it, period. So I'm apologizing for somebody else and tell you to do it. Not very healthy, but sometimes it's needed. Let me make one point. All styles are good and all styles are bad. What makes them good or bad is how they're used by the individual and when they're being used and which way they're being used. That's what makes a style, both for leadership and management, good or bad. So the style by definition is not necessarily bad. The pace setting, when you're going to set a pace for your team, for your department, for particular people to move forward and keep the momentum, that is often necessary, but you will not apply it all the time. It also depends if you're manufacturing, if you're in service, if you're in leisure business, if you're in a financial institution, that will also change. Um, I think the defensive one is one where you could say is most of the time is negative, where there's maybe a slight exception to the rule that they're all good. When you start defending a decision you made and an impact on my team, all my people, on the operation, and I'm defending it because I feel attacked. So, you can have different schools of thought where they say defensive style is not a style, is a feedback problem and feedback training needs. So I leave it out. Can be debated. I have different opinions on it, but some of our mentees and trainees share that belief. So we leave it on the table. Now, talk about leadership styles. Do you have any particular question on management styles you want to address before I move on to leadership styles?
No, not actually. These are very, very familiar. These are management styles that I've some of them I've been under. Some of
Yeah.
them I've also implemented more so in my earlier years, more on the bad judgment of when to implement them. So happy I know how to implement them better now.
You know that bad judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from
Yeah.
good judgment, right? So, and the question to you would be, how are your styles now managing with our junior staff? How good are you? Are you using feedback to get feedback on your style? But that's another part of the
You should
conversation.
tell me. You're a senior
No, no,
coach.
you should tell me what they tell you, and you do your feedback exercises with them. But let's
Okay.
not go there now. So leadership
Yeah.
styles. We talked about authoritative, which is a tone breaker for me. But then you have, democratic style where you are involving the people, and sometimes this democratic style is in a way fictitious because you're giving direction, but you want people to get on board. So you let them, you share the feeling that they have a say because they have a say. But at the end of the day, you are the leader and you're going to give the direction. The transformational style, which is very important, is you're going to set the boundaries, how far we go and we don't go. You're going to set the guardrails of what we do and we don't. Leaders are in charge also of setting the not just the vision but also the values And the values come into now what I just described as the guardrails, the boundaries, the limits of what we do and what we don't. When I say at Revolving Change, money is no object to satisfy a customer, we mean that. That's the way we run the business. It wasn't business coaching at the time the same because it's our philosophy, it's our value. We value customer satisfaction extremely much. So we don't let anything get in between, get in the way. Um, Affiliative is very important. And I think is the most important of all, and I kept it for the end because bonding with your following is extremely important. Now, it's a big word, bonding. I understand. But the bonding has also different ways of bonding, different degrees of bonding. You bond with your team in a way where I remember, and now because since COVID it's been different, we all working. We don't often get together, but we used to have in the U.S. the bowling evening every now and then, like once a quarter, or would have a breakout day. We'd go all to a nice natural place where we had lunch and brainstorm on topics. Sometimes the whole company, sometimes parts of the team, sometimes the department. But the bonding is extremely important for people to grow together, to understand. And now we're talking about perception management, we talk about feedback, we're talking about a number of other things, but understanding the person behind it. That's where leadership is so important. That leadership will not focus just on the systems, on the results, on the progress, on market share, and on profits. We'll focus on how well are these people bonding. Are we bonding with our customers? Are we inviting them to visit us? Our suppliers, do they really understand? I'm being extremely vocal and active and focused on that with many clients, and we have made a big difference in many of them. When a client starts involving their suppliers in their internal processes, and suppliers start understanding, all of a sudden they see how radical and how massively important it is to deliver on time, and they show them actually live when these people, your product doesn't arrive on time, these people don't have work, and we are paying for all this infrastructure and their salaries, and we don't have the product because your truck broke down, or because your management failed, because your own leadership didn't get your people to. So the connotation, this bonding, is extremely important also to spread leadership to my customer base, but also to my supplier base. So when you have a customer coming in and seeing how this is one also a flagship of what we have accomplished over years. We have taught many of our clients how to deal with customer complaints and how to involve customers in the customer complaint solving process. I'm saying solving, right? Not managing customer complaint management, customer complaint solving process. So we put in a process where our clients bring their customers in that have a complaint, and they show them what they're doing. They're sharing with them. They're bonding with them in terms of here's what we're doing about your complaint. This is the process we went through, and here are the actions we're taking. And maybe there is a freebie, maybe there isn't. Our experience has been that customers that have been involved in this process of customer complaint solving will become the greatest advocates and supporters of your company. So that was an excursion into why affiliative, the bonding is so important for leadership. And here's where the CEO is, top level management are involved in the bonding. So there are differences between management styles and leadership styles. And the focus is day to day business, summarizing day to day business, immediate results. My workforce, on the other side, leadership is all the stakeholders leading to a vision, realizing that vision, and ensuring that all the parts move in the right direction at the right speed and are coordinated.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you're able to define that you emphasize that, and you did go. I did see the importance for you to go into affiliative leadership style because it is not. It is done by some naturally, not by design. It's done.
Intuitively,
Yes, it was done intuitively,
not by design.
not by
Absolutely.
design. You're
You're
right.
hitting
So
the nail right on the
that's
head.
what right. That's why there's some companies that have really good, like there's some companies that have really good culture and bond. People keep saying that, oh, we're like family here. It's a running joke with corporations. If a company tells you, oh, we're like family here, run. Because
Yeah,
yeah, but there are some companies though that they really are like family because the top management made sure that it is like that. It is like that by design. And that is a true testament to affiliative leadership, which is not, it's my first time. Like, I've never heard about affiliative leadership style, not until I came on board Revolving Change. So, yeah, that was a real eye opener for me when I started working here. And with all that being said, like, now where do we go from here? Now that we know the difference from leadership and management, and we also know the different management styles, how can we use this to our
Well,
advantage?
you can join our execution training program, which is going to be launched very shortly. But I knew you were going to ask a question because working on that program, I have it right here on my other screen. The key steps for actionable steps identifying and managing leadership and management. Um, Number one is assess your style. Which leadership or management or both, which styles are you actually using? Um, you need to take into account gender, you need to take into account culture, you need to take into account a number of things. I'm not going to go into all the detail. I want to tell you what the steps are because I think this should be separately available for our members to dig into it. So, besides the program, I think we should make it a share this knowledge with them, but in more detail than what I can now in this podcast. Number two, adapt to the situation. Situations demand situations demand different styles in leadership and in management, both. All right. So you need to be aware what the situation is. Is it critical? Is it panic? Is it life threatening? Whatever the situation is. Number three, coordinate both. Make sure that leadership and management work together and coordinated way. Um, some people call it balanced. It's not balanced because you're going to be more leading, but you're also going to be able to back off from leading in management. It's called on you to manage because the crisis situation requires. Think of all days when you have pharmaceutical company having a security issue. Well, the leaders became managers, managing perception, communicating with the press, communicating with with consumers, establishing credibility. And then they went back to their leadership, insisting where the company is going through. So adapting to the situation and then coordinating both leadership and management. For develop execution skills, it's so important. You're going to manage, but you need the skills to execute. When you manage, you're executing, you're implementing. These skills are phenomenally important, but they are also in leadership. If you don't know how to manage properly communication, you don't have proper good listening skills, your leadership is going to suffer. If feedback is not one of your strengths, also leadership and management are both going to suffer. And finally, build empathy and communication. You need to reinforce the idea of empathy. You need to show what the role of the business and the company is in society, but also external, but also internal, that we care about our people, we care our stakeholders, internal and external. So, in summary, the five: assess your style, adapt to the situation, coordinate both management and leadership, develop execution skills, and build empathy and good communication around it. Right. So those are, and again, I think we should go into more detail, but in a separate document, not here. And this takes us, in my opinion, to the next item or level of discussion and evaluation of leadership and management, which is how different people, different levels deal with this. Top level management has different, and I mentioned it just a moment ago, was kind of blended into top management level would coordinate, for instance, differently as mid management. Mid management, their focus is, we said it earlier, day to day operations, solving problems, managing their staff, managing product, delivering the machines, logistics, etc. So the importance, leadership is important at the top level way more than management skills. Why? Because a leader will surround himself, a good leader will surround himself with top managers that eventually will be groomed and developed and coached to becoming leaders. Because a leader that was a manager before still knows and hasn't forgotten what it means to manage, will know the pressures of day to day running operations. So, at the top level, still the focus is on leadership more than it is on management, but there is an understanding and there's empathy into what managers are doing. And most of the time, at the top level, the reports to you are managers. Mid managers are the one that I they suffer the most. They have to translate the message of leadership. They must translate the spirit of leadership into actionable decisions, into actions, into tangible measures that managers will take on the shop floor, will take with their peers and with their subordinates. So they are the ham in the sandwich. They got the top management percolating down and sending the leadership message and content, whereas you have the pressure from the bottom demanding more follow up, more attention, more time, more resources, more this, more that. And they need to blend both and manage. So a good mid manager will do a lot more managing than leading, but it will also still need to lead because it has to motivate its people, need to keep an eye on that people understand they're not just building a wall, they're building a cathedral. If you are familiar with that analogy, it's being widespread used. But we need to keep our people understanding, no, we're not just putting stone on stone, we're part of a big project and a big vision. And you are playing a key role in achieving that. Now, entrepreneurs and business owners need both. I mean, and they need revolving change like everybody else does to help them dissect and also to pivot, to shift. And the problem with, I think, with entrepreneurs and business owners and juniors is that this pivoting sometimes is very, very fast. They need to switch in the spur of a moment from being a leader to being a manager. So you're maybe talking to the banker at 9 o'clock and selling the dream and the vision of your business so you get the financing you need. In the meantime, the phone rings and you have your production manager calling you with something going wrong in production. And you need to be a manager at that moment, helping this manager solving that problem. So this pivoting at that level is very demanding and very tough. And the demand on managerial skills here is massive because you need to pivot from communication to management styles. You need to pivot to feedback techniques. You need to pivot to problem solving, to negotiation, to perception management. So the demand on mid management and entrepreneurs is massive, and business owners is massive. Did I cover both? Because I think I wanted to bridge into.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's actually very clear that, like we were saying earlier, different levels of management, different levels of leadership that you have to apply at certain points. So it was actually very, very clear. So I don't have any more questions, but if you're listening here today and you do have questions, please place them in the comment section below or send us a direct message. But if you don't have any questions for us, we do have a question for you. And that is, how do you prioritize and adapt leadership and management in your current role? What's the number? Is it a 50-50? Is it a 20-80? You let us know. And how is that working out for you? Because we want to see the real life application of this thing and how you manage. And it was really important for us to define leadership and management again today and tell everyone what the differences are, because we will be heading into a series topic where we talk about leadership and management in the context of the multiple generations that you have now in a company. You have the boomers, Gen Xers, the millennials, and even the Gen Zs. So how are you to manage? That's 4 generations in a company. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to actually have a discussion around that. So if you can be around for that next time, that would be great. If you do have questions about that and juicy questions, again, comment section below. Send us a direct message on all of our socials, and we will include that in the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I am Joanna, a junior coach here at Revolving Change, and
Jorge,
also with me today is Jorge Lobo, our resident dinosaur. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next time.
thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.